Opposed? Okay, agenda is approved. Administrator Holte, could you read the consent business for the record?
5.1, approve renewal of agreement with Southeastern Libraries Cooperating. 5.2, approve MCCC MCAPS end user software license agreement for 1 additional year for case records management software. 5.3, approve LG 220 gambling application for exempt permit, Winona chapter NWTF. 5.4, approve to sign and join cooperative agreement, Minnesota Department of Health Infrastructure Grant 2022 and 2023. 5.3, approve renewal of grant and business associate agreements with Advocacy Center of Winona for Sexual Assault Crisis Aid and Domestic Violence Crisis Intervention Services. 5.6, approve renewal of purchase of service and business associate agreements with Winona ORC Industries. 5.7, approve purchase of service and business associate agreements with Family Service Rochester. 5.8, approve purchase of service and business associate addendum agreements with Family and Children's Center, DBA Hiawatha Hall for intensive residential treatment services. 5.9, approve Minnesota Department of Human Services grant contract for child outpatient diagnostic assessment, psychological testing. 5.10, approve renewal of Minnesota Department of Human Services Adult Mental Health Grant Award for 2023-2024. 5.11, accept certificate of performance and authorize final payment for state aid project 085-625-068. 5.1, accept certificate of performance and authorize final payment for state aid project 085-637-029. 5.13, request to replenish the change fund. 5.14, confirm payment of disbursements.
Thank you. That is the consent business, but we do need to approve it before moving forward.
We have a lot of visitors in the audience. Don't be alarmed. It's just a malfunctioning light system. If it goes off, I think wave your arms in unison and it'll come back on. No, you have to set it out. Okay. We're not intentionally trying to keep you in the dark.
Oh, I don't know.
I apologize.
I don't know. Okay, so that is the consent business, but we do need to approve it before we move forward.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Vegley has moved. Commissioner Olson has seconded approval of the consent agenda as read. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. The first item under General Business Department recommendations is 6.1, discuss remaining county administrator candidates and recruitment process. And I think there was a separate letter that Mr. Melvin provided us that was on the table, and there was an amended packet that came out just this afternoon. Oh, yeah.
Something changed again.
There was just a letter, this additional
Oh,
letter.
that email that came to us in an email.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So Mr. Melvin is online.
Sure. Did you want to start us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and welcome aboard, Commissioner Vegley and staff. I just wanted to wish you a Happy New Year and let you know we still have before us the task of finding a county administrator for Winona. And so just to kind of give you a brief review, I'm sure we all know where we've been, but just for members of the public who may be listening, we have done 2 recruitments. We had the first recruitment, which was on January 6th of 22. We had at that time 13 candidates who had applied for the position, and we did proceed to go ahead and interview 6 individuals at that time. We had one individual who there was some interest in, however, further consideration came to the conclusion that that individual maybe would benefit from having more experience at a department head level before making the transition to being county administrator for a county the size of Winona. So no one was selected from that first recruitment. We then held off for some time to allow things to kind of change within the field, and we did repost and had 11 applicants, which interviewed on October 13th of this past year. From those, we did interview 5 individuals. The board at that time selected a finalist, and we were authorized to start negotiations. At the same time, Winona County was recruiting. There was another county that was also recruiting. The individual that was a finalist for Winona County happened to reside in the other community and was offered that job. And so unfortunately, she did take the other county job. And so where we currently stand is that we have 2 candidates. We have Brian Anderson, who is currently the Auditor Treasurer Finance Director for Goodhue County, as well as Rick Niemeyer, who is a civil attorney for Trempealeau County in Wisconsin. Those 2 individuals are still interested if the county board is interested in having further discussions with them about the county administrator position. So that's kind of where we are today. And certainly am wanting to hear your thoughts now that you've had some time to, think about it in terms of where you would like to go next. And I'm more than happy to help in whatever way I can to facilitate those next steps. So I'll open it up for your thoughts.
Do we need a motion before we can discuss it?
So we modified our ground rules so that we can discuss it without the motion.
I'm gonna throw, I'm so sorry. I will make a motion. I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion to not accept any of the candidates from the second recruitment round. And then have a discussion based on the reasons why. So a motion to not accept, I hope I'm saying it right, and I hope you can hear it. A motion to not accept any of the candidates from the second Winona County Administrator recruitment process. Second.
Okay, Commissioner Bagley has moved and Commissioner Olson has seconded a motion to not accept the remaining candidates from this last round of interviews for a potential county administrator. Commissioner Ward.
Yes. Well, first of all, I feel that Winona County lost a great opportunity in that first round of candidates that we didn't select one individual I thought stood out above all of them. In the second round, we did do the interviews and Ms. Pesh did elect to stay with Freeborn County, which I totally understand. It's very difficult to move a family with teenagers and community and everything. And I think our loss, Freeborn County's gain. I think she will do an outstanding job for Freeborn County. But the last time we discussed this, there was a desire to re-interview the 2 gentlemen, and I'm just wondering what changed. I mean, I know Commissioner Bagley was not here, but I wonder what changed with the rest of the board in deciding not to re-interview those 2 people that were the candidates that were still in the running for it. I mean, I haven't heard anything. I haven't received any additional information or anything. I'm just wondering why Mr. Olson and Commissioner Meyer.
I was never interested in
Okay.
re-interviewing either of them.
Commissioner Olson was, I guess, I don't know what the change of heart was. I thought we were going to go ahead and re-interview before we made a decision.
The way I recall it is I did want to bring Mr. Anderson back for an interview, and it became apparent that probably didn't have the support from a majority of the board to to do that. So I'm letting it die right here.
If I can just comment, I
Mr.
know
Melvin,
it. I know at one point there was a request to have the candidates' information provided, and I believe Commissioner Ward, there was discussion about that, but I don't believe there was any formal board action to proceed with it. So it was brought up as an idea or suggestion, but there was no action taken on it by the board.
I think it was partly timing with the change of the board, and there was a desire to let the new board make this type of decision. So I understand that part. Yes.
Commissioner Bigley.
I apologize because I don't know as much as the current commissioners. I have been listening and watching for about 6 months. And this is not necessarily a critique of any of the existing applicants. If this motion succeeds, this is not a critique of any. I'm sorry, Mr. Melvin. I don't usually sound like this. And for the audience, this will be clunky besides my voice because we can't talk about this, especially for the new members. We can't talk until we're in this setting. So it will be a clunky conversation at times. If this motion succeeds, I will then make a motion to, I don't know quite how to craft it, to offer the position to Maureen Holte to begin a process of a discussion of what that would look like. So this isn't necessarily a critique of any of the existing candidates. I feel like we have a strong internal candidate that I realize wasn't part of the last process, but I think that this is a strong candidate. So that's my rationale, not a critique of any of the existing. I just feel like we have a very strong candidate here already. So, I'm sorry again for my voice.
Quite dramatic. Probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing.
Pathetic.
Commissioner Ward.
Mr. Melvin, I think our agreement originally with your company was that you would do 2 rounds at the set price. If we elected to open it up again and take candidates, there would be additional charges to do that candidate search and interviews and everything. Am I correct in that?
Commissioner Ward, yes, you are correct.
And do you know how much you would charge for the 3rd time?
No, I don't know what that amount would be. I could certainly provide that to you tomorrow, Commissioner Ward, if you'd like it. I would advise, I guess my personal recommendation would, as much as I have enjoyed working with you, I would not recommend going into a 3rd recruitment. I don't believe that we have done a 3rd recruitment before, but I feel that would, applicants would, I don't think you would have a good turnout for that 3rd recruitment, in my opinion.
With your firm or any firm? Any firm, is that what's your analysis there?
I would say with any firm. I think that the fact that we've been through 2, and I understand there are conditions outside of our control, especially with that 2nd recruitment, as to why we're not able to get that done. But I don't think you'd be providing a good message to candidates if they were coming into a situation like that.
Well, they can Google and do their research, yeah, just like anybody can. It's in the newspaper, it's in the print, what we've gone through. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Ward.
This position is multi-pronged, multifaceted, but I see it as one of the most important qualities is the financial budgeting process piece of how county government is going to function with limited resources. I always call them limited resources. Yes, we can just raise taxes and it covers everything, but to me, there's a limit. And I've had a lot of people express concerns over not just Winona County, but the city of Winona, the school districts within the area, everybody looking for more and more money out of the same population. So financing and budgeting are going to become crucial. And I personally thought maybe Mr. Anderson being, and we have a new auditor treasurer. She's got to learn the ropes and how we do this, all these things. And this is it's a multi-million-dollar, budget. It's not small money. I really thought maybe we would give Mr. Anderson a second chance. We all agreed kind of that, and he is auditor treasurer currently. He's had some finance experience in other counties. I just thought a second interview might bring out more of the qualities of that aspect of what I feel is one of the most important of this administrative role. So I guess I still would be open to, in particular, Mr. Anderson getting a second interview just to see what the feel is like. And if internal candidates, Ms. Holte wants to apply, we can do our own, application and have candidates. We don't necessarily need to hire a outside firm at this point. So that would be my preference to actually ask Mr. Anderson for a second interview. And if Ms. Holte's interested, ask her to interview. I think there's some real critical questions and components of an administrator that we need good answers about where we're taking Winona County and how to improve it.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. So a motion on the table was made by Commissioner Vagley, seconded by Commissioner Olson, not to accept the current candidates and to discuss the next steps. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
And opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. So now what are we going to do? Mr. Vagley?
I'm so sorry. I'm making motions and I can't talk. And help me with this, but and especially Ms. Sonneman. My motion is to create a committee of 2 commissioners working with Ms. Sonneman. The recommendation talks about the human resource staff, but in this case, there's a conflict of interest. Correct me if I'm wrong, is the recommendation here says if we're going to consider Ms. Holte to work with the human resource staff, which is going to be difficult because she is also the resource director, is to create a small committee of 2 county commissioners. I don't care which 2, I could be 1, I don't need to be, and Ms. Sonneman to develop a proposal to offer, to develop a plan to offer Ms. Holte the position and to clarify, not ask her to apply for it, just to simply develop a plan to make an offer at a future meeting. Does that make sense? Or is there a better way of saying that? To create a committee of 2 commissioners, and if she's willing, Ms. Sonneman, to pull together, enter into a conversation with Maureen Holte to develop a plan to offer her the position. Does that make sense? Or is there a better way to do that?
It makes sense. I guess I would format it, and I'm willing to serve on that. I served on the first search when we hired Mr. Fritz. But I would envision it would be something like putting together a contractor agreement in discussions with Ms. Holte. And from the county's perspective, what kind of provisions or conditions should be in that. And essentially meeting with her if the board is of the mind to want to directly hire, which you can do. You don't have to go through a job search again. So
That sounds better. So how should that be framed as a motion? To
form a committee consisting of 2 county commissioners, the county attorney, and the purpose of which would be to draft a proposed employment agreement and meet with Ms. Holte to discuss that and bring that ultimately to the board for consideration.
That sounds much better. I'd like to make that motion if that's okay.
Sure.
Parts of me that can't talk, parts of me
I will second that.
that's more clear.
Okay, so Commissioner Begley has made motion, which I am not going to, well, I will repeat it. Okay, so it is to form a committee with 2 commissioners and the county attorney, the purpose of which is to draft a proposed employment agreement to discuss and then bring that to the board at a future time.
Group discussion.
We're not deciding tonight. We're gonna bring it.
Right.
Okay, so Commissioner Begley has moved and I have seconded. Commissioner Meyer has seconded. Commissioner Ward, please. Yes.
First of all, Ms. Holte, are you interested? We have not heard from you. We're making a big assumption. Are you interested in this proposal?
Yes, I'm interested.
Okay, all right. With that said, I'm a little nervous of drafting basically a employment contract when I've got a number of questions that the answers to me determine if Ms. Holte is the right person for this job. But drafting a contract to me, is a pretty definitive step. And again, I'm only one, but I just, I would like to have some conversation, some discussion, get some questions to this answers before we decide to come into a draft contract. Draft contract says wages, benefits, all these vacation, all that stuff. And I'm just not there yet.
Can I make a suggestion that then if the other commissioners would like to put together some questions to ask of Ms. Holte by the group during the discussions, and I'll call them discussions, as part of this drafting of an agreement. And that agreement, as Commissioner Begley said, would not be saying that the board would adopt it. It's bringing it to the board for discussion with the idea that you can decide or not decide to adopt it. But if you have the opportunity ahead of time to ask those kind of questions or to send those questions to the committee, I'll call it, those can be asked of Ms. Holte and we can provide those answers as part of the discussion of the proposed agreement.
Begley.
I would be willing to be on that ad hoc committee, but I don't need to be. I mean, one suggestion in commission, again, for the public and for the audience, we haven't had this discussion. That's why it looks clunky, and it will be clunky at times. Commissioner Ward, if you might be interested, I would love to serve with you on that, or it could be, doesn't need to be me, it could be anybody else, to compile those questions and to have those conversations and to bring a recommendation back for the full board, which there could also be more discussion, but to vote on, if that makes sense. But I don't need to be that person. It could be anybody else. Commissioner, should be interested.
I guess I can see where the board's going with it. It's not the way I would professionally approach an employment contract. I mean, it's like you're putting it all on the table, but we haven't really decided if we're going to follow through with what's on the table. It just isn't the way I would do it if I was looking to hire a CEO of a company that I was part of. I would have the discussion, then decide if you want to figure out the nuts and bolts of a contract. But you put the contract on as part of the motion. So,
Well, to develop a contract, that would be
Right, a proposed employment agreement. Without any strings attached.
Olson.
Well, I think it's important that Commissioner Ward serve on that. The second obvious choice.
While we have Mr. Melvin here, I would like to know if you have recommendations for the committee. And he mentioned to me earlier, if we decided to hire internally, that his advice was we should have the sheriff run background checks or whatever. So I'm wondering if he has any things to share, tips that he'd like to share with us, ideas.
Thank you for the question. I think as long as you're working with the county attorney, I think that she will do a good job of, steering you down that road. Obviously, if you're considering Ms. Holte, she has been employed with the county for a significant period of time. You know, the background check is not such a big issue. And I do believe that there really is no set procedure that the county has to go through, you know, other than really having the board be in, a majority of the board members be in agreement with making that decision. So I would defer to County Attorney Soneman on much of that.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none. The motion before us was made by Commissioner Vagley, seconded by Commissioner Meyer to create a committee that would propose along with the county attorney. And should we say in the motion that the committee is going to be made up of Commissioner Vagley and Commissioner Ward? Are you guys comfortable with that?
I'm not going to support the motion, but I can be part of it.
Yeah, that's fine. The purpose is to draft a proposed employment agreement, have a discussion with Administrator Holte, and then to bring that to the board for conversation. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Okay, motion carries.
Question
Mr. Ward.
on process and procedure then. We need, if there's any questions that want to be asked, we need those. And should they be funneled to Attorney Soneman so we don't,
Probably, yeah, we can do
Okay.
that.
all right, we don't want to reply all. We want-
Right,
Okay.
yes, exactly.
Okay, so any questions sent to,
Send to me directly
okay,
and put county administrator
questions.
internal question. Yeah, something that highlighted it with the high priority.
Okay. And then timeline? What are we looking for, a timeline? Great question. Today's February 24th. We haven't.
No, it's
Oh,
January.
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 I know you want winter to be over, but.
Yeah, no. I like January. So we,
The 14th is the next meeting. It's probably too soon, isn't it? Or
By the fourth meeting in February, that would,
well, do you think
Second meeting in February?
is
Second meeting.
anybody gonna be out of town? I'm gonna be gone from this Saturday to Thursday next week, but it's a work thing,
okay.
so
Well, so we put a placeholder to,
for the February.
28th?
okay, all right.
if we're ready to go?
If we're ready to go,
Yeah, if
right.
we're ready to
If
go, we can
everybody's
always,
comfortable.
right. And now with having two commissioners and internally, it can be just a closed, that part doesn't need to be a public meeting, correct?
It's-
All our other interviewing and such
Right,
has
it-
been public,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
Let me get back to you on that, but it is asking some questions that may be of personnel nature, so we might have to be careful.
okay, so.
Yeah.
But when you guys had your committee, when you were formulating the offer for Ms. Pesh, was that public?
No, but the interview, the questions we asked her and everything, you're right, when we got down to the actual offer, no, that was a closed,
Or it wasn't public anyway? It
right,
was just-
right, it was closed, it was just the two commissioners.
Because we will have a discussion at the board meeting and that will be public on the 28th.
But I guess the question I have is when we bring people into interview and they sit there and it's all open to the public, observe. So I guess I just want to be,
We may want to bifurcate it into questions and then have a closed session for any negotiations, but
okay,
I need to look at that.
We'll hold you accountable for that action. Okay,
Yeah, no, I just need to research that.
okay, all right, those were.
Well, my hope is my intent was this was not an interview. This was to create an ad hoc committee to make an offer
Okay,
contingent upon some questions asked and questions received.
then it becomes a contract negotiation.
Right. So I hope that could be a non-public meeting, but the summary of it
But the
could be shared out,
discussion would be, right.
at a board meeting.
Okay, item 6.2 is to review the county board processes and procedures. And if I'm right, this was proposed. Hold on, this is just our second conversation, so,
Isn't it? No,
no, it's our second. So we need to, it's not a full discussion and we need to have 3 votes to move forward.
It's just the third, I think.
Is it the third?
I think
At the
it is.
January 10th?
Third, and then the 10th. So
Oh my God, that's right. We had 3 meetings this month.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. All right, so this is the real discussion. Excellent. Even better. Commissioner Bagley?
I'm sorry that I'm talking so much and I sound so horrible. I dug deep and I'm a nerd. I keep binders, I keep meeting minutes. I went through 2002 to 2010. The earliest discussion I found there was 3 of them roughly, was August of 2003. I would like to, without bringing those notes back, return to a process similar to what Commissioner Ward had shortly after we began. Here's what I would like to suggest that we replace the most current policy with, is to bring back the committee of the board. I want to go through like 4 steps so we could discuss it in any bat. Bring back the committee of the board with the understanding that the committee of the board is a work session and that there are no official decisions can be made. So it's and I don't know if it needs a new name, but the committee of the board would be a work session. So there can't be any formal decisions made. And to have those, we used to have them, and Commissioner Olson was a part of this too. When we had 3 meetings a month, it was the first two, and there wasn't one in the evening, but because we only have 2, I'd like to regularly schedule, have a set committee of the board after each of the 2 county board meetings. So have it on the calendar. We could cancel those. And that we do not ask staff to spend time on any issue or, to spend a significant time until we've had a chance to have a discussion at the committee of the board, which is a work session format. And it would only take 2 commissioners to request to have an item moved to the committee of the board, not I'm sorry, the regular meeting, but the committee of the board. Does that make sense? Through all my squawking. So to resurrect or to return to the committee of the board format that set those meetings, each of the 2 in both the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Also to have a general rule of thumb that they not last more than an hour, and that we not have more than 2 or 3 items. And we don't need to have these sessions. They could be canceled if there's no need, but to have it as a set standing committee like it used to be. It used to be a committee of the board where it's a work session where we could have more discussions informally with staff here, but not pull the staff in nor ask them to do a lot before we've had a chance to talk about it, if that makes sense. Do I put that in form of a motion or?
Well,
That was only 3.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
no, I have a question. Okay, so that's fine, but that's not a replacement for the full set of the policy.
Right.
So
Replace parts of it then?
so you're suggesting that you would, because it sounds like an additional process to me. I mean, it doesn't sound like.
It's to do away with all of this silly.
Eliminate the
that-
1, 2,
Okay, so
3.
we're only talking about this process.
Yes, to
Okay, the
replace.
3 meeting, the
Yes.
3 meeting,
Right,
the 3
yeah.
meeting process.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. All right, because I was thinking, wait a minute, what about all the rest of it?
To streamline this currently cumbersome process and to make it such that no one can rush an issue through. There's plenty of time for public input, but we all as a board have a chance to discuss issues before we put it on a regular scheduled meeting
So if I have a request for board action, whatever it is,
for discussion or action.
right now they're the same.
Okay,
Right now they're the same. A request for board action.
They can be different. I mean, they can be very simple, matter of fact.
Yeah, but all right, so
or they can be
currently,
general philosophical discussions.
people, or you could ask for a presentation, right?
Right. Mhm.
So currently, if you have a request for board action at meeting 1, you get a second. The new process would be at meeting 1, you say, I would like to have this put on the committee of the board.
no, thank you for clarifying that. For clarification, I want to return to the way that it was where 2 commissioners can simply indicate by writing, like by email, to the county administrator that they would like to put it on the committee of the board. So you don't need to have a meeting to request another discussion, to have a discussion later. So let's say
And so it doesn't have to be in public.
request.
Right.
No, it has to be documented in writing. That's the way that it used to be.
Okay,
And the committee of the board is open to the public.
Yes,
But
exactly.
not necessarily participation.
Right.
Okay,
Still
so
just a board meeting.
let's say, Commissioner Olson and I decide we want to discuss the light
Yes.
going out. So we send an email, we each send an email to Administrator Holte and we say, we want that discussed on the committee of the board. Okay. So then what happens?
Then it goes to the committee of the board and it's on. Now, we should also be careful about how much we put. I know that was just a joke. But
Well, not really.
yes, yeah, and then if you contacted the county administrator, it would be in the committee of the board agenda
Okay,
and we'd have a discussion about it. There'd be no formal action. We discuss it and then decide to go further with.
okay,
And at that point, at the committee, as I understand, the committee of the board, if the group decides it wants to go forward, then it could go to the next meeting to take some type of action.
Yes.
and so what if the board is split at the committee of the board meeting?
Then it can move forward.
So it must only unanimous?
No,
No.
the majority.
Okay, so it needs, and it's just 3 votes.
Yep, the-
So
And
not,
I could bring back that. This is actually adding a little bit to what we used to have as well, but this isn't something brand new. It's actually returning to how it used to be.
and so then the committee of the board decides, yep, we
We can discuss it too. We can't, yeah.
we want the light fixed.
Yeah.
So then it comes up on an agenda at a regular board meeting then with the input,
Yes.
and then there's a formal vote. Okay, all right. So is that the motion?
That made sense.
I'm looking at the policy and procedures. If you look at page 3 of your packet, there's actually a couple of things, and I think I'd mentioned this to you, Commissioner Meyer, a while back about, still refers to people can't talk until they use the lights.
I know, yes, that's right.
So that
Need
might
lights.
be a little cleanup there. But what you're referring to, Commissioner Vaguely, is on page 4, agendas B2.
Yes.
The commissioner wishes to add an item.
Yes.
The 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Like, it'd be nice to look at that whole thing, I mean, the whole document.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and also mentions committee of the board in there as well. Yeah.
Right.
I know we
plays
did.
that.
So I guess my motion would then be to replace item B2 with the process, and you guys can help me wordsmith this to clarify it. Replace it with a process where any 2 commissioners can request an item be added to a committee of the board meeting. The committee of the boards will be a set standing committee after each of the 2 meetings, the regular business meetings. And that we agree that we don't ask staff to spend any significant amount of time on the issue until we discussed it with the county administrator. That's the one exception to staff.
For technicality,
Yeah.
the evening meeting, maybe we would move it to before the meeting.
I'm fine either way on that.
No, then it doesn't get.
That would
I'm sorry, I'm getting old and I hate to drive home in the dark and the cold.
That would
in the
also,
wintertime.
that would also force
And
us,
it would help
limit us.
staffing,
Yep, it would
to
also limit
not-
us.
hang around.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. But I'm also-
And then
Sorry,
it allows, if I can, it allows some more informal discussions of where we want to take these things, because at a county board meeting, it's a little, it's more restrictive, and it just would allow for more free flow of information and not just these items, but then the committee of board again would create a model of allowing maybe department heads to come in and give us updates and things like that. So all the board gets all the information as needed.
So where is the part, we're going to strike some things. So where are they? 3 and 4?
Of the agenda packet.
Yeah, but the stuff, yeah, I can see where B2, that's what we're talking about.
And then, well,
Part we're going to strike is,
it's all of B2.
B2.
yeah. All right,
This would allow for, I'm sorry, Commissioner Olson, I think the same.
this motion doesn't have a second yet.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, so Commissioner Vagley's moved, Commissioner Ward has seconded. Please proceed, Commissioner Olson.
I was still counting 3 steps. First, the idea comes up, then we talk about it at a meeting, and then we bring it to the next meeting. So I see it could be a little bit less formal with a couple of emails, but I'm still counting a 3-step process.
Yes, yeah, the emails, the initial request, you are right, doesn't need to have, we don't need to wait for 2 more weeks for a meeting. That could take place.
Still waiting for your 4th point from before.
Sorry.
No,
Well,
but
it's 2 meetings. He's having it after each meeting. so
Yeah,
there's
I,
it is-
I understand. It'll
It is,
expedite it a little bit.
No, there's the 4th point, meeting 1, meeting 2.
Oh,
If you want
okay.
4 points. That's all.
thank you. Good job. Teamwork, yeah.
We changed the 1 meeting from after the meeting to before the meeting.
Yes.
So there's a clarification.
Does that make sense to staff?
Okay, that was good. All right. So Commissioner Vagley has moved, Commissioner Ward has seconded that we modify under our current policy, item B2, to remove the current process for requesting a board action and instead to move back to a process that used to exist, where if 2 commissioners request something on an agenda at the committee of the board meeting, then it can be discussed. And then if the majority of the board wants to move forward with it, then it does actually come back to the board at the next formal county. Got it?
Intent is not to rush anything. It still takes time. If anything, it should hopefully provide for the chance for the public and the media to hear more free-flowing discussions. I think the other process, while good intended, was cumbersome and it limited conversations. I think this should be better for the public and the media in theory to happen to hear the board have more discussions, like Commissioner Ward said, to occasionally ask staff to come in and hear updates so we all hear the same thing at the same time. I apologize for my voice.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Terrific. Next agenda item is 6.3 to approve or deny a future agenda item to discuss the Veterans Service.
I'm sorry, I was the 1, 2, 3 again.
Yeah, where are we at?
That's
6.3.
No, but I mean, are we at the 1, 2, and 3 stage?
We're at 2.
This is that 2 under the old process.
We're at 2. We need to, yeah, if this motion were to, if this idea were to receive 3 votes, it would move forward for an actual discussion.
I would move forward to put on a future agenda the discussion of the Veteran Service Office.
I would like to second that. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment that we bring it to a future agenda and ask the staff to have a simple list of pros and cons. If you're okay with that.
I am, but I think we do that in step 3.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Until you
Yeah.
change the process.
But we've given them a heads up. They can start working on it. They know what we're thinking. I apologize, but that's just the way it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is the last issue that's grandfathered under the old policy. So
Right.
Commissioner Olson.
I'm not gonna support the motion. I think this is, the history behind it is, we changed this for a reason back in a couple of VSOs before, so I think those reasons still exist, so I'm not gonna support the motion.
I realize we can't talk about it beyond just moving it, but my intent is not to revisit other past issues or cases, et cetera. It's just to look at it by its own merits. But I realize we can't talk about it much else. I don't intend to bring up old issues. It's just to look at it and propose a new process. Can't say much else.
I will just probably ask, as I've asked on other issues in the past, is AMC will gladly do little surveys. And how are other counties doing this? Because I've talked to a couple and it's different than in each county. So to just get a little idea how they do it, who this person reports to in their structure, to give us some base of, some other options possibly. So I'll ask AMC if they can pull something together on a relatively short basis. They have in the
You
past.
did another vote for.
In the past. No. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. I could have done it without telling you. I'll tell you.
If it passes.
She can do it anyway, even if it doesn't.
Right.
I am not going to support this motion either. I was unaware of the litigation that took place. And I do feel that this ends up opening up an issue that the county already had to take to court. And so I don't support bringing that up again. Mr. Baker.
We can't talk too much about it, but I hope we could leave that all off to the side. I think we can have a discussion about all this and not bring up any of the litigation issues. By this one, I think the next item, I can show us a way to do it without bringing up the other litigation issues. Like I want to steer clear of litigation issues as well. I think it's possible to have a discussion and not bring up the litigation issues.
Mr. Ward.
I think it just deserves merit to discuss it because I think our veteran service officer is becoming ever more critical with more and more veterans, younger veterans that need services and everything. And I think we just should be more flexible and figure out how to make this best for not only the veteran service officer, but the veterans that are in Winona County. And I don't want to be a stumbling block if we're doing something that's prohibiting them from doing their work. Because veterans are a very important part of our society.
I will agree with you.
And I don't, again, I know there was litigation. I have no desire to go back into that or discuss it or anything. This is moving forward. How do we best serve in the future?
Can I make a suggestion? Since it looks like it's a 2-2 vote and it will fail. With your new, what you just voted on before on the process and procedures, I would suggest that as a technicality, this fail, and then 2 commissioners could send an email under the new process and ask that it go through to the board discussion, which would be an open discussion about the issues of the importance of the Veteran Services Office and that, right? So it would promote the discussion and look forward rather than backward as to what had happened before, because you're right, Commissioner Ward, this is an incredibly important issue. And there were some reasons why, and I won't go into the litigation, why the salaried position was looked at because of the evening hours and things like that happened with the Veterans Service Officer. So as we all like to say in the law business, it failed on a technicality or they got off on a technicality. I would recommend that you go ahead and do the vote. And if it goes 2-2, then you have the opportunity.
Mr. Ward.
We have one of these crazy rules that we're not supposed to bring anything up before a year unless there's dramatically new information. And we can use Commissioner Bagley as he's new. He's back in the seat, so that's new information. Does that follow? I mean, are we following our rules?
You're only voting on whether you should bring it to a third discussion meeting, not making a
Okay.
decision on the
Alright, so-
merits.
Okay,
So
so we don't have to do that 1 year
I'll
thing.
parse the law.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
But I know Commissioner Olson has brought that up several times on other issues, the 1 year.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving this item forward to the next board meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Nah.
Okay, motion does fail.
I'm kidding. I do. I do too.
I'm sorry.
Item 6.4, or did you have something else to
Well,
say about this?
This is for Attorney Sonoman. I mean, I could ask by email tomorrow, but would it be the same thing to just during the course of a regular board meeting to indicate the same desire to move it to a committee of the board? Or
I
should
don't
it,
see why
or
not,
should it be? Or
but I think that if,
the intent of it in writing is that
yeah,
we're
I think to put it in writing and follow the new process from what you experienced
Okay.
before in the past.
okay.
And sending it to interim administrator.
Okay.
So would there be a new glitch now that we'll just have a perpetual conversation? And
We shouldn't
Disagree.
No, we should agree to disagree and
No, we shouldn't keep on bringing things back up again, but
But you're gonna do it anyway.
I want to, because this process doesn't allow it to have a conversation. I think if you guys can see what I'm proposing, if we could actually discuss it, you could see that we're looking forward, not backwards, and there's a way to do this without revisiting. But we can't talk about that in detail in this format.
You talking?
Okay. Item 6.4, approve or deny a future agenda item to discuss a potential Veterans Service Office Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
To approve that item, which could be separate from the other discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay, Commissioner Vagley has moved, Commissioner Ward has seconded that we move forward to a third meeting. Approval or denial of a future agenda item to discuss a potential Veteran Service Office Advisory Committee. Is there discussion?
Us.
In this format, there's things I want to say, but we can't. So
And I think it has a lot of merit, like with all the other comments we've said regarding 6.3.
this is separate from the other issue, regardless of what that happens with that one.
Well, the one thought that I have is, it's going to be two thoughts, to be honest with you, when I try to, okay. So the way that the Veterans Service Officer position is structured now, that's part of Health and Human Services. And so we have a Health and Human Services Advisory Committee. It could certainly have work groups. So that would be one way to move forward with it. But the other thought is, all right, if we're going to have a separate conversation, maybe we should just delay this and have this conversation with that one.
It's hard because we can't talk. I hear what you, but we can't talk about it with the current process. But I hear what you're saying. I would like this to stand on its own regardless of the other issue. And there's a way, I think, to make this work that's very practical, that streamlines it and gives more of an opportunity for veterans issues, information to flow to the board and for the general community to be more involved as well. But we can't talk.
And my experience with the Health and Human Service Advisory, people have a time frame in their mind. The time frame tends to get consumed very quickly, things, but it tends to be very human service orientated. And so public health gets, like 2 minutes at the end, but everybody's attention has already, been depleted. So I personally think the veteran service needs its own standing, not to be lumped in with. There's a different group of people that would probably have passion for it and want to serve on it. So I think it deserves its own committee.
Any other discussion, or are we ready to vote? Commissioner Olson?
So the vote is to bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Discussion.
That's right.
I can do it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. That concludes our normal business. So Commissioner Ward had some announcements.
Tomorrow, the county board and department heads are meeting with local legislators. We have a number of issues now. I think the public can can Zoom in and listen. It's not a participatory meeting, but they can listen to what the issues are that most of our department heads have with legislation. And I just really encourage people to reach out to their local legislators. Send them emails and say, don't do this or do this, or, get clarification of what they're voting on, because things are at a very rapid pace at the Capitol. And it's hard to keep track of it, but hold them accountable for their votes and what they're doing and what they're not doing, I think is part of our citizen responsibility. And then it was brought up several times, the well testing. February 2nd over at the St. Charles Community Center, 1 to 7. You just got to bring 8 ounces of water in a clean plastic bottle or container. It's unfortunate that it's in St. Charles because that's on the far edge of the county. For some of us, it's a good 45-minute drive. But yeah, it's free. You can get testing. And I think the testing results come in within like 20 minutes. And so if somebody has any questions about their well water, they should come and sample and get it tested.
County Attorney Sonderman.
I just wanted to give the board an update on 2 items that are of import. And at some point I would be asking that at least one of them be a full agenda item. First of all, I know I've sent emails to everybody, but just to confirm that for the local option sales tax for the jail, I did confirm, and speaking of, yes, talking to your legislators, with Representative Pulaski, he is sponsoring the bill in the House, and Senator Jeremy Miller will sponsor the bill in the Senate for our lost sales tax of it's 0.25%, meaning a quarter of a cent, right? To raise up to $28 million to help pay for the jail. So that's in the works. And I actually got a call from the Reviser of Statutes office this morning clarifying because they were writing up the legislation. So I'm monitoring that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and this is where I would be asking for a later agenda item to give you more information on this and ask for your approval. But if you recall, back in December, I brought to the board the opioid settlement discussions. This was the monies that were coming from the multi-district litigation that was settled, and the Attorney General in Minnesota kind of took the lead on that, but I was part of a smaller committee. Myself, County Attorney at that time, Mike Freeman, John Choi from Ramsey County, and representatives of the AMC, Julie Ring, has really taken a great leadership on that, as well as the League of Minnesota Cities. But we've been entered into another discussion or another settlement, and it's an amended agreement. And I have a meeting tomorrow. I had a meeting last week of this group. And so we're looking at additional settlement dollars, this time mostly from pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, that were selling opioids prescriptions. So that means more money for Winona County in the end as well. So I'll keep you abreast of that. But what I'll be looking for is, or I'll present the amended agreement, which I have in my hand here, but it's a draft. And it would be amended Minnesota Opioid State Subdivision Memorandum of Agreement that you had previously approved the original agreement in December of last year. So that's in the works. More money for abatement. So, good. All right.
I have a committee report, and you weren't on here in the agenda, but what would you like?
I want to
Go ahead.
Attorney Sonderman for all that work. Both the opioid and the sales tax. Just because it's fun, can you share with the audience what the acronym for local option sales tax turns into? I had to reread it twice. I
It's
thought
not a great.
I thought you were
Yeah.
joking when I
But
first saw it.
it was so true of last session.
But this is, the Department of Revenue came up with this acronym, LOST, for local option sales tax, LOST, but it doesn't mean it's
I
lost.
thought you were
It's found.
joking when I first saw it.
It was lost.
We find money to pay for good things. So thank you to the sales tax that you all buy products. We all buy products in the county of Winona. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you bet. Thank you for
The Emergency Management Committee met this morning and there were some nice items and I wanted to give a quick report back to the board. We had used some of our ARPA funds. First of all, just $5,000, but it was to recruit volunteer firefighters. And so Ben Klinger shared that there was great news. I mean, there is a set of videos and St. Charles, Wilson, and Goodview have used the videos and Goodview has recruited 4 new volunteer firefighters and he had 3 more applications just yesterday. And there are some banners that were part of that funding and right now there's 1 more that's available, but Altura, Wilson, and Minnesota City are each using the banners to try and recruit volunteer firefighters. So that was delightful. The folks from the Pickwick Fire Department thanked us for the funds that they got, about $10,000, and it was to buy a defibrillator. So they have it now and they were excited about that. And Ben Klinger, our emergency management director, told us that the command trailer, which is also being funded with some ARPA funds, is going to be arriving at least in the state of Minnesota, and then it has to go to have a bunch of equipment installed in it. The other thing that he told us is that this, in early June, the regions, because this event is going to be held in Rochester, there's going to be a 2-day school safety summit that is about reunification, which is apparently when there is a shooting incident, when the kids get back with their parents, that's the reunification event. And so this summit is going to focus on the healing after and how do you help folks recover from one of those kind of events. And so the folks that are sponsoring it and will be coming to present, it's from an organization called I Love You Guys. And the story is really quite touching, though. The couple is their daughter was killed in a school shooting incident in Colorado. And that was the words in the last text message that she sent to her parents. And so that's what they've named their organization. And so they are paying for the event with grant funding, and he will be sending us information in case anyone wants to attend, because it's a thing that you might be interested in. And then he talked to us about what his priorities are for the legislature and the lobbying that he had done. And one of them is that he wants a cell tower on the Wisconsin side of the river that will make our communications better. And the other one was a device that's called a bidirectional antenna. And they want the legislature to buy one for each school. And it is the thing that will make the emergency radios that the first responders used are called armor radios. And so it's a tower that the school owns and that makes that communication possible, and they can deploy it when there's an emergency inside the school. So there was some great news about some events that are coming up and about some of the uses that they're making of the ARPA funds that we gave to them, which I thought was great. So that concludes our business. I think we would need a motion to adjourn if we're ready.
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Olson has moved and Commissioner Vegley has seconded adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? We are adjourned.
But one of these could be very lacking.